Welcome to Ghana Promise. We express economics, global health, science, and social thoughts. We comment on issues that affect the life of the ordinary person. We are apolitical and nonpartisan. We say what we see fit in the best light we see fit. It may seem to you we are taking sides. No. We don't have that as our goal. And now, we welcome the host, Dr. Gadja, spelled capital G, E, T, capital J, A, H. This is Dr. Gadja, an economist, computer scientist, medical doctor, and global health PhD epidemiologist. I do this as a calling to help Ghana chart a course for greatness and, in the process, help Africa along the way. There are many issues we'll be discussing on this platform, and we welcome your comments, rebukes, and questions. Today's topic. This is Dr. Gadja. The last time we were talking about what needs to be done by Ghana as solutions to be able to overcome this economic crisis that the country is facing. Today we will try to look at supply side inflation management theory. I have coined this phrase, inflation management theory from the supply side. Before we continue, I want to make clear that the situation that I'm about to discuss might not work for every country. We have to understand that. Every country, just like a patient, has to be diagnosed, and before remedies can be suggested. Now, we all know that. So let me say this. So the topic for today is supply side inflation management theory. We'll look at the supply side, how we do this. So economics is a subject that provides tools to the economists to manage economic situations. If you ever think about economics as a ready-made device to solve economic problems, you'll be running into error. Because times change, the devices have to be calibrated, retooled to solve the particular problem that they are being used for. They may work for the other case, you need recalibration to work for the next case. You cannot assume that in every inflationary situation you should begin to apply austere measures. Those are important in some other category of situation. But as I had made clear from previous recordings, that this particular situation Ghana is in is one that Ghana has to take opportunity and push itself to become a beacon of development in Africa. In an emergency room or in an emergency situation, there are no ready-made solutions. You have to think out the box, looking at what the patient is going through time by time, and apply the remedy. You look at how the remedy is working, whether it is solving the problem you intended to solve. You do assessments and all. Any doctor in an emergency situation that decides to apply a medication that he had just applied to a patient before, this new patient is attempting to commit murder. Because you have to address the situation that is at hand. You have to know what case is before you. And ready-made measures or one from another patient will not work. Ghana needs to think outside the box in this crisis situation. All I hear on the media is, oh, let's go to the IMF. Let's go to no, look, I'm not saying doing that is bad, but let's go to the IMF and then what? Nobody is given any solutions. I don't see it. Let's go to the IMF and then what? The IMF is set up for short-term measures. That's something we should know. I know that in the 80s, mainly in the 80s and 90s, Ghana had been with the IMF as if a leech is on a dog. No, that's not what it is set up for. But if you are not able to help yourself learn the lessons that you have to learn when you go to the IMF, you get yourself like a dog on a leash. The second thing I hear is that we should be ready to present to the IMF austere measures or policies. Basically, you have to cut expenditure, cut this, cut that. No, bad idea. It's only a good idea if those things we are cutting is waste. In actual fact, look at it. How can you cut unless you are wasting? You cannot cut unless you are wasting. Think about an individual person who eats 1 meal a day because he doesn't want to put on weight. And he's okay with 1 meal a day. That's what I do. Maybe when needed, maybe something small later in the day. But 1 meal a day. And then you say he should cut his expenditure. And everything he does is geared towards eating 1 meal a day. But now you say he should cut his expenditure. If that person is to cut anything, that means he's going to go without food. Will be going hungry. And that is not what you're looking for. It is only under wasteful situations that austere measures are practical. When there is no waste, austerity is bogus. We have to understand that. When there is no waste, austerity is bogus. If you can manage austerity, that is a sign that you have a lot of waste in your system. Maybe Ghana does, so they should manage that and cut those things that are wasteful. That has nothing to do with inflation or anything. It's just bad governance. Now, after you have cut your wasteful expenditure, then you can come to IMF now with a long-term benefit plan, not to cut because you've already done your homework by cutting and you are as dry as you can be. Then you can look at IMF in the face and instead of talking about austerity, talk about expansion. The last time I was saying that inflation is nothing more than a call on an economy to expand. That's what inflation is. It is the most significant, clear indicator in an economy for the need for expansion. There's nothing natural than that. Let me give you an illustration to buttress the point I'm trying to make. Let's assume a seller is having shortages in his inventory of the products he sells. That means a he or she or whatever. Immediately, he realizes there's a need for price to increase, so he can be able to manage the inventory. Because with price increases, maybe some people might stop buying. But even after he increases the price, he realizes that demand is still going high. From the individual merchant or seller's perspective, that means inventory levels must increase because there's a windfall profit here to be made. Let's assume he used to sell 1,000 of the products in a week. He sees this opportunity and so increases his inventory by 500. Still at 500, managing the same increased price. He's selling, but at this time it's almost even. There is nobody coming and not being able to get the product. So it's like it's balanced. After this whole thing goes on and the price is stabilized at that price, what has happened to the seller? The seller previously was selling 1,000 products a week. He increased his inventory by 500 and he's still in business. The seller has expanded. He's no longer a 1,000 products per week seller. He is 1,500 or more per week seller now. You see, the seller has become bigger. That is what exactly I'm talking about. Expansion is what inflation is calling for. It is calling for us, a country like Ghana, to expand our economy, to become bigger. Austerity only shrinks you. And when you look at it at the long run, you realize you are small. But as we go forward, the pressures and the challenges of the future are such that you need to be bigger than you were to be able to handle those challenges in the future. Because the future is increasingly getting more tougher and tougher. So if you don't expand, if you don't grow up, the next challenge will consume you. That is what has been happening around Africa, and you have coup d'etats and all these overthrow of governments. Because we have been doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. Now I want to express about some steps that is necessary to manage the supply side of the price curve in inflationary conditions. First, find the main commodity in the economy that is pushing prices upwards. Usually this kind of inflation that you find is cost push inflation. There are other kinds of inflation, but usually it's cost of a particular product that is not being controlled, that is pushing every other thing upwards. So find that product. In the case of Ghana, it's quite easy. We all know it's fuel prices. Petrol. I call it the way they call it. Petrol. Petrol is what is influencing prices. Once you find the product, the second thing you have to do is to make sure there are no waste, or there is no waste in the supply line, in the purchasing, nothing. Make sure everything is clean. No siphoning of funds, no what they call kalabule, nothing. Everything is clean. Then you begin to subsidize that product. Government must find the subsidization of that product profitable. If it is because you cannot subsidize it with foreign exchange, subsidize it with local currency. From gas station to gas station, or from filling station to filling station. Subsidize the product. If that is the way you're going to do it, you can do it through the gas station managers, subsidize their product by 50%, or whatever value you think is fit. I mean, I'm talking about how to manage it. So this is not particularly pertaining to Ghana, but to any other country that has problems like this. So you subsidize the product. Like I'm saying, you can do it from filling station, you can do it through the associations. You can also do it through the import of the petroleum fuel by subsidizing the imports. Once you subsidize it, go around and make sure the expectation that is expected in the other facets or the areas of the economy is achieved. Now you have to do those by policies, case by case, product by product, trade group by trade group, managing government expectations and putting in place policies advisory to eliminate the problem. To eliminate the problem. We will not call the problem cancer here because we know what it is. Cancer is when you don't know what it is. You give it a ma. I don't know what it is. It's a ma. So meningioma, whatever ma, asthma. We don't know what it is. By this we know what it is. So it's no longer a cancer. Now let me give you something about what is going on in another economic situation, like in the US. Now, the Biden administration is a great one. Likewise, the Trump administration. I mean, we don't do politics here. But supposing the Biden administration decided to subsidize petrol, whether at the pump or from the imports or at the manufacturer or at the drilling company, wherever, but decides to subsidize gas. Gas is petrol. You know, the US call it gas. In Ghana they call it petrol. So they decided to subsidize petrol instead of using the reserve. The national reserve is actually strategic national reserve, strategic national oil reserve. Instead of using that, think about what would have happened. You know, they will be printing cash if they have to, because probably they don't have enough dollar, printing dollars to pay for oil. And that is cheaper than using the product itself. Because now that he's drained the product to the level that it's been drained, who knows how much he has to spend to get the product back? Nobody knows. Because the prices keep fluctuating. The only way he can find a cheaper way to get it back is to drill himself in his country. And then take it and put it in. Almost like at a zero price. He knows that. So that doesn't scare him enough. He knows when West goes to West, he'll have to drill and put it back in. So it doesn't scare him. That is US situation. They are the most powerful country in the world. They can afford to do that. But you see right here that subsidizing the product would have been much better than taking the product itself and putting it on the market. Subsidizing the product in terms of printing dollars by currency, use paper currency. So I come to this theory. Whenever in a crisis, hold on to product, use paper. Again, whenever in crisis, economic crisis, hold on to paper. No, sorry. Whenever in economic crisis, hold on to products and use paper. We probably all do it in our personal lives. When you are in economic, you try to look for money elsewhere to use. You don't go from the beginning selling your household goods and that kind of thing. No, you don't do that. Same way economy. When in crisis, hold on to products. Use paper. In inflation, prices of products is what is rising, not paper. The prices of products become ever more valuable and ever more expensive in an inflationary situation. So products is what you need to hold on to, not paper. In terms of Biden, now we're draining the reserve. Security-wise, it makes the U.S. look more vulnerable. But like I said, he's not afraid. He knows how he can get it in him. So that's fine. America knows how to solve America's problem. They will go one way, you see somebody comes and tells another way. That's America. Ghana and Africa, we don't have that opportunity. We don't have that leisure. We don't have that basically, we cannot sleep and say, oh, no problem. America can afford that. They are a superpower. We don't have the opportunity that America has. So this is our chance to sit up and sit right and negotiate well for Ghana. With a group like the IMF, you have the best group to negotiate with. If you are thinking on your own about the best ways for you, because you come in energized like I am and put your plans forward. And because you are energized and you know you can achieve them, they will also believe you and help you to achieve it. Now, if you look at the trend of governments in Ghana, you can talk about the Fourth Republic. Rawlings was with the IMF. That's the Rawlings government that introduced the Fourth Republic. Then he left. Kufuor would have been with the IMF had it not been the Millennium Challenge Fund or the Millennium Challenge Goal that had with it pegs. It had like prizes, awards. That when you achieve such and such and such, maybe you reduce cholera by so and so percent, or you reduce this by you get paid a sum of money. So during Kufuor's time, the Millennium Goal was what the world was looking at to reward nations. And Kufuor was able, or Ghana was able to achieve those things on 2 occasions. In actual fact, they achieved on the 3rd occasion also. But by the time the 3rd occasion was arrived, the Millennium Challenge Fund was cancelled, was scrapped, and was replaced by the Sustainable Development Goals, which in themselves did not have any of those pegs. The other one was the one that had pegs with climate change and all that. But this Sustainable Development Goals didn't have those pegs. So Kufuor would have also gone to the IMF. But for that, he avoided that. And it became like Ghana is out of HIPC, but it was all that fund. And he was helped by the US to be able to achieve those goals by the President Bush. And you see some of the signages and Walker Bush Road and all that in Ghana. The Walker Bush helped them reduce malaria and all that with mosquito nets and that. So they were able to achieve that. Then fast forward, Kufuor left. Part of the payments for the Millennium Fund was due, and it was paid to Mahama. So Mahama started with almost zero debt. Then, towards the end of, not Mahama precisely, Atamils was there before Mahama. So basically, let's say Atamils got that, and then Mahama took it from there. But just before Mahama got into Israel, which was like the second term of Atamils' government, the rubber began to hit the road. There was no money. And so Mahama ran to the IMF. Then he leaves a gaping hole with debt. And then these guys, Akufo-Addo takes over. Obviously trying to do it, manage the debt, but he couldn't manage. How could he manage it? You are in debt. You need money to function. So what they did was to put an investment banker as a finance minister. Now investment banking is not economics. It's finding money to invest. So he did what he could do as an investment banker. Got Ghana a lot of loans by selling euro bonds and all. He basically got Ghana the loans they needed to do the things they wanted to do. But the economy had already been suffering, such that after you've gotten all the borrowing you can borrow, it gets to a point you cannot borrow any longer, or it becomes too expensive to borrow. Said that borrowing is not what will solve your problem, because you borrow and you will not be able to pay, which has become the problem of Ghana right now. So on a trend line, you realize that Ghana is not sustainably able to manage its economy. And it's not a party situation. It's not NDC, neither is it MPP. It's a Ghana problem. We've been taking the same medications over time. Probably even we'll say that there's there's a bacteria in there, and it has grown used to the efficacy of the antibacterial we've been taking, and so it's not working any longer. We have to look at things a little differently. We have to stop this menace of continuing to go to the IMF. It's like we never learn. Meanwhile, I know we are smart people. We should be learning fast. And stop going back and fix this problem once and for all. I believe we have an opportunity this time to do that. We have the opportunity to do that and then begin to do some lifestyle changes in the psyche of the Ghanaian mentality or the Ghanaian mind. That is needed. I'm telling you, it's needed more than anything. Because, we send ourselves into government. And so if our government representing us is what it is ourselves. We have to change our psyche. And it's not just the people, it's the education also. The things we are taught and the way we are taught them. I had opportunity to go to school both in Ghana and outside. And I see the difference. I see the difference. I mean, do we say it's our fault? I don't know. But it's partly our fault because we are not thinking hard enough. We are not thinking hard enough. We have to do more thinking. As an economist, you have the tools. Use them to think through the processes. Use them to think through the processes. Now, another issue that I keep hearing, for everything they say, we revoke your license, we close you down. My friend, that is bad policy. It has been something that the Rawlings regime had been doing. They destroy houses, everything, because you didn't follow the rule. That is waste. That is reducing GDP. That is somebody's labor gone to waste. They built a mansion or a building and then you destroy it all. Don't do that. Find ways to charge the person for violating and spread it out for him to pay. A forest exchange bureau, like the president said, probably is not following procedure or is not being compliant, and then they close it down. Like the banks that were closed down before. It is wrong. My friend, it is wrong. If a bank wants to close down, let them close down. Don't close any bank down. Don't close any forest bureau down. Put the policies down. If they cannot follow it, they themselves will find that they don't need to be in the market. But by then, you have taken violation fees from them so much that, like HSBC was operating in the US, when they were doing business with Iran, although the US said he had sanctioned Iran, the US put a huge violation sanction on them that HSBC had to fold up in the US. But they had paid some before folding up. Don't close any institution. Let free flow of business, capitalism, let it work. It's a bad idea. Look at this particular thing that the president mentioned. He said we've revoked the licenses of forest bureaus. My friend, you revoke the license. Look at what happened. The forest bureau has a lot of money. They are known to do. They are known to have money. That's why people go to them. That's why they are able to influence the price of a foreign exchange. So because people know them. Now, you have closed them down. They shut down. They closed their stores. Where is the money? It's still with them. Where will the money go? Black market. How much will it be sold? Probably higher. Where are the staff? Unemployed. Think about it. In an economy where you want to give people employment, why should the government be one of those who make people unemployed or create a situation where people get unemployed? It is wrong policy. We have to stop it. Had they put a violation and say, hey, pay this amount of money, you spread out through 10 years, as 10 years when you're in operation, we have to require that you pay this amount. If you violate again, we'll do this. And you keep increasing the violation. If you want to close them down, they themselves will close down. You don't have to close them down directly. You keep increasing the burden, and they'll realize, hey, we can't carry it any longer. We are better off shutting down. At that point, they'll be able to do negotiations for somebody else to take them over without government, because they still have the dollar that has to be sold. And so they fold up. In their mind, they think they've dodged the penalties and folded up, because they erect another company in their stead, which looks like a new company. Yes, government allow them to go. They've just swept, right? But yes, the new company will do things better, because the old company has found out that it's not possible to continue to live in this sham way of not doing the right thing. They're not meeting compliance. So new company will meet compliance. Has government achieved its goal? Yes, government has achieved its goal without too much difficulty. That is the thing we need to do as a country. Violations. You don't comply, I charge you with a violation. And we have to find ways to enforce those compliances, so that we can make money from those who decide to violate our rules and regulations and stuff like that. That is what we need to be doing. Because closing companies and revoking license only make the situation worse. It only makes the situation worse. Now, still on the supply side, one thing that we have to know, which most of the time nobody tells us, when you see a theory in a book, it usually assumes, and especially in economics books, they assume a perfect case. They assume a perfect case and then begin to analyze the situation from that point. However, in practice, cases are not that perfect. They are not that, straight jacket, straight line. So even the concept of inflation assumes an utopian situation whereby all resources have been exhausted and the economy has been expanded to the full. In a situation like that, when there is inflation, when price increases, there is no way to expand the economy further. So the increases remain in price. Or let me say, when demand increases, there is no way to expand the economy further. So the increases in demand show up in prices. That is what is the case that inflation assumes. But in reality, most of the economies that have inflation have not exhausted their resources. They've not expanded beyond a level that they cannot go further. So we have to look at it from that perspective and recognize that the situation that inflation assumes is not the situation we are in. We are not suffering a situation whereby resources are exhausted. Maybe some other countries may be suffering that, but not our country, not Ghana. Ghana has a lot of potential in terms of development. So the prescriptions I'm giving may not work for a country that is exhausted all its ability of production. In fact, some countries are close to not being able to expand further. Both human and natural resources. But our country is not like that. In fact, the vast of Africa is not like that. We are not that kind of case. So when we have an inflationary situation, we have to understand that it is only the natural cause inviting us to rise up and expand our economy. Ghana has economic prospects. Africa has economic prospects, almost biggest ever seen. That at times it confounds the rest of the world and they are insulated by it. Africa has the highest potential ever seen by man to industrialize and develop. Any help that Ghana is looking for must be geared towards these things. to expand, to develop, to go forward. We need help. But we have to recognize the kind of help we need. Coming to bodies like the IMF with the same old stories is not working. We need new thinking, new leadership, new people to negotiate these things. Now I hear in the media that the world order is changing. I've heard it several times. I heard President Biden utter it out almost like candy. The world order is changing. The world order is changing. Now, if that is true, I personally don't believe the world order will change, because I want to do everything that I can to make sure it does not, because I don't know what the other one was going to be. At least I know this one. So I want to stick with it. I want to do everything I can to make sure we maintain the same order, because the new order might make some of us obsolete, although we've learned a lot. So now, if it is true, I know it is true that there are challenges on this order. I mean, Russia and the East and all that, they want to be the superpowers. They want to be the guys who dictate what should be done and what should not be done. They want their citizens to be the top of the world. I mean, you can see it. They want to divide places. I mean, they want to do things. I don't blame them. I mean, who doesn't want to? So there are challenges on the world order. But I want the world order to remain as it is, with the West dominating. Because at least I know it is that order that has given almost every other country the opportunity and the chance to also try to wish, to dream, to hope, and to expand. Now, I believe it's the time for Africa. But Africa must think right. Ghana must think right. Because if you have an opportunity and you cannot think right and catch that opportunity, it is useless. You lose it. I want the West to win. But I know that they recognize the potential of Africa. It is not only them. The East also recognizes the potential of Africa. And I know that the one who will win the tussle must have Africa on its side. And the West knows that. That is that which we need to know as a country. To be able to go and negotiate with the West and say, help us stand. Help Ghana to stand as a beacon in Africa, to draw the rest of Africa to the side of the West. Ghana has done it before. They led the independence struggle to liberate the rest of Africa. Ghana is ripe to lead the struggle of Africa forward into industrialization and power and close allies to the West. Ghana and Africa needs that help. I believe these are the times of the beginning where Ghana, just as a beacon in the time of independence liberation, can lead Africa to the point that it needs to be as an industrial power allied to the West for good purpose. I'm done.